back in 1981.
"12:40 p.m. on March the 2nd, 1976, a Ranger on Highway 94.
So I'm gonna run out of this door, and
You're running.
or I'm gonna
He was under the impression he was
I'm gonna follow the pace. I'm gonna follow the pace of
You're
you.
gonna follow the pace of the
I
light.
received
Yeah.
all
And then, so then once you're out, though, then we'll stop and move upstairs,
Yeah.
and then I'll run out of another
I
door
got
Yeah.
there.
and go down all three flights.
It was
And we'll do that twice from a different
shovel off to
perspective.
one side.
Okay.
There was a red gas can.
Life in the next
like
world is
someone had just
substantially the
dropped
same as
everything,
is life
set it
in
on
our
fire.
present existence. Later redacted and read as, life in the next world would be substantially the same as is life in our present existence, if we do not pay it forward, meaning the Keynesiology imposed TID on the followers.
But they'll leave here completely until
Patric Maiteayi was born into the Cloytermon manufacturing family and was raised in the small town of in what eventually became Exeter. He was visited many times by Maiteayi. Patric Cloytermon was born in Blooming Grove, a hamlet on the west side of Hudson, and spent his childhood years across the river at Hyde Park. In 1825, when he was about 13, he had a mystical experience of a melodious voice that suggested he might wish to travel, adding Moonston, which Patrick later translated as Hudson, and then Kingston.
Referred to a bolt of iron charged with the light of 1,000 suns. This bolt of iron was hurled in anger and led to an explosive event.
Oh man, my room is like the same one, like mirrored in the building.
Specifically showing all
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like what he calls a In the summer of 1843, Patrick was awakened in the middle of the night when he spent the rest of the day At times he called it something like a voice, a light, or disembodied force compelling him to go to the forest by his family's home in Hudson and dig a hole. It is unclear how many holes Patrick dug, but popular consensus of his neighbors and townspeople is that he dug many. At some point during this exercise, Patrick uncovered the sacred text of what has become known as Keynesiology. To translate the text written in an unknown and obscure language of symbols, Patrick was compelled by the church to dig another series of holes in which he eventually discovered a set of translation devices, a bucket of discernment, and the bricks of fortitude from which he thought could communicate the role of the trail with Maiteayi. However, Patrick Cloytermon was unable to write or reason the device. Even my The translation is in English. Patrick needed a few more.
Is not the only one, will have very profound influence, whether that other life is more advanced or less advanced than we are. The very knowledge that life can originate spontaneously will have, I believe, very profound effects on the thinking of man in terms of where he is. Not absolutely rejected by other people, that maybe life on Earth was brought here by different
Of course, there are some who claim Patric Cloytermon's later revelation. Of course, there are some who claim Patric Cloytermon's later revelation. We're motivated by greed, not by the prophecies of the church and the present. But we cannot be motivated by greed, not by the occupations of communication of the church. But we cannot distill the transcendence of lines to the occupation of the achievement of life, nor can we easily forget that Patric was communicating more and more achievement of law within the green trailer and the knowledge that Patric was communicating more and the psychic green trailer within the green trailer and was no longer only without a living subject time and the psychic green trailer how's it what they did just a tyrant without a living subject time cannot exist survive how does it concept of a living being that consists entirely in what sense does it make speak of waiting without surviving absolute achievement of a constant feedback in what sense does it make speak of waiting without time and without war Patric's achievement of a constant feedback is the past present and future placed him in time, out of time, and all time. We cannot forget the words of Patric. Out of one, two. Out of two, three. Out of three, one.
One night while sleeping, Patric was awakened in the middle of the night by a light in his ear and was again awakened by the light in
The prophet then foresaw the rising
I'll like come to. I'll get the signal, hear it.
garments. And Patrick knew that he would find his memory
Find it. Okay. And then I'll hop out, pull the pants on, put the shirt on, get the boots on, and come around that way, or do you want me to go out
This
that
book,
door?
which occupies the role of translated just
Well,
about
which door do you want me to go out of?
about 25% of all that is written in the Bible is prophecy. There are dozens of prophecies dealing with Christ's coming into this world, but there are hundreds of prophecies related to Christ's second coming. Some prophecies describe the times we live in. Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, famine, and pestilence, and fearful events, and great signs from heaven.
Abigail Lowe came from a wealthy and educated family that, contrary to other families at that time, believed in equal education for males and females. She had seen Patrick only in passing, but had heard of his reputation around the community as a super storyteller and diviner. When he entered her room on that night, she was initially startled to find him in a state of ecstasy, wearing a sacred garment of pink theology, where she won everyone over by completely understanding how instantaneously held to follow him through the fields, into the forest surrounding her family's farm, and into his birthday. Once in the cave, Patrick began, without feeling the words full of her mind. Startled, Abigail froze when over Patric's shoulder she caught a flash of whom she later knew as Maiteayi. He appeared in an instant and then was gone from her sight. She then submitted to Patrick
The dry day.
and allowed him to remove her clothes to discuss the sacred garments of ecclesiology. When Patrick was done applying the garments, Patrick and Abigail were immediately transported to a dimension of future, an approximation of all time, in which both could exist on the same plane of message. Patrick later claimed that he could enter this dimension alone with brother twin and the green psychic journey, but we are not concerned with that.
Abigail Lowe came from a wealthy and educated family that, contrary to she had seen Patrick only in person. They had heard of his reputation around the community as an eccentric storyteller and wine. When he entered her room on that night, she was initially startled to find him in a state of ecstasy, wearing the sacred garment of Keynesiology, but was eventually won over, but completely understanding his urgency and compelled to follow him to the fields, into the forest surrounding her family's farm, and into a cave.
The oranges.
Once in the cave, Patrick began, without saying a word, to pull at her garments. Startled, Abigail froze when over Patrick's shoulder she caught a flash of whom she later knew as Maiteayi. He appeared in an instant and then was gone from her sight. She then submitted to Patrick's advances and allowed him to remove her clothes to construct the sacred garments of Keynesiology. When Patrick was done applying the garment, Patrick and Abigail were immediately transported to a dimension of future time, an approximation of all time, in which they could exist on the same plane as Maiteayi. Patrick later claimed that he could enter this dimension alone with Brother Twin in the green psychic trailer, but we are not concerned with that now. In all time, Patrick and Abigail could exist in the flesh, or that is how it is depicted. Abigail and Patrick had different versions of the experience. Patrick believed that he kept his human form and described Maiteayi as having a human form. Abigail did not. Her language, one cannot help but remember that her education had been advanced than Patrick's. About the experience was more poetic and transcendent, as if it came from Maiteayi themselves. She described more of a feeling and sensation than a physical change in location. Both Patrick and Abigail explained the experience as ritual of cosmic conjoining of consciousness with Maiteayi. One of one.
Of course, there are some who claim Patric Cloytermon's later revelations, like Pay It Forward, which was meant to ensure lucrative future lives by giving generously to the church in the present. But we cannot discount the transcendence achieved through the occupation and communication of the tick or the possible effects of Lyme's disease. Nor can we forget that Patrick was communicating more and more within the green trailer and was no longer only in the present time. In the psychic green trailer, Patrick was watching himself. Without a living subject, time cannot exist. How is it possible for a living being that consists entirely in its relationship with the environment to survive in absolute deprivation of that environment? And what sense does it make to speak of waiting without time and without world? Patrick's achievement of a constant feedback loop of past, present, and future placed him in time, out of time, and all time.
And then, it gets like somewhat complicated, but
Patric Cloytermon believes that the contraction of what has come to be known as Lyme's disease
Tie them
was
in a
essential
knot
to hearing
with
the
what?
voice
With
of
tape,
Maiteayi.
and then they're in a
Abigail
womb.
did not. Patrick, constant or overwhelming attachment to what he had begun to call his demon, and then his brother, and then eventually his twin, was a cause of a constant and irrevocable rift between his and Abigail's interpretation, their beliefs of what the transcendence of time and the ceremony of Maiteayi was meant to represent and achieve.
Back in 1981.
So I'm gonna run out of this door, and
You're running.
or I'm
Life
gonna like.
in the next world
Crazy
is
discussion.
I'm gonna follow the pace. I'm gonna follow the pace of you.
in our present existence.
Yeah.
Later
Okay.
redacted
And
and
then-
read as
So then
life
once
in the next world
you're
would
out,
be
though,
substantially
then
the
we'll stop
same as
and
is
move
life in our
upstairs.
present
Yeah.
existence.
and then I'll run out of
If we
another
do
door.
not pay
Yeah.
And go
for
down all 3
me,
flights.
the Keynesiology
And we'll do that twice
quoted
from the different
onwards.
perspectives.
Okay.
Okay.
Patric Maiteayi was born into the Cloytermon manufacturing family and was raised in the small town
Or
of
like looking at me but
in what
facing each other.
eventually
like
became
So
Hudson.
I'll be like 5,
He
6,
was visited
7,
many
8.
times by Maiteayi.
And you guys go boom.
Patric Cloytermon was born in
So we're gonna break up each
Grove,
part.
a hamlet on the west side of
Kinesiology
Hudson,
escapes all
and spent his
definition
childhood
of
years
But wait
across
for
the
me to do
river
it.
at Hyde
Patric
Park.
Does that make sense?
It's like,
one,
can we just let's just run through it one time.
It was enough to give
Yeah,
his
I know.
instructions
Yeah, we're not.
even from
Is
the
everybody
witches
really
or
interested
from
in
It
Mars.
suggested he might wish
It is
to
against
travel,
this background
adding
that
Meanston,
we can
which
understand
Patrick
evolutionary
later
nature and
translated
development of
Hudson,
kinesiology.
and then Kingston.
Its mode of transmission originates in the split of existence, the confrontation and communication of an inner and outer reality, whereby a new detaches itself from mere existence. This would be the fate, or divine principle which Patric Maiteayi proposes to lead, to take his chances in love and other aspects of life from here on out. It is only on the basis of such faith that the individual can genuinely accept and overcome the earlier infantile deprivations without continued harboring of resentment all through life, which had the effect of holding him back in the future. In this sense, the past can be accepted.
In the summer of
as a
1843, Patrick was awakened in the middle of the night by an inner peace he spent the rest of his mortal life trying to explain. At times he called it something like a voice, a light or disembodied force compelling him to go to the forest by his family's home in Hudson and dig a hole. It is unclear how many holes Patrick dug. The popular consensus from his neighbors and townspeople is that he dug many. At some point during this exercise, Patrick uncovered the sacred text of what has become known as kinesiology. To translate the text written in an unknown and obscure language of symbols, Patrick was compelled by the energy to dig another series of holes in which he eventually discovered a set of translation devices. The bucket of discernment and the bricks of fortitude from which he thought could communicate alone in the trailer with Maiteayi. However, Patric Cloytermon was unable to write while using the devices. It is unclear whether Patrick could write at all, a fact that has been vigorously debated within different factions of kinesiology. To translate them into English, Patrick needed a female counterpart.
If we were to land on a strange planet, we would probably avoid its magnetically disruptive cold fire. If travelers from outer space were to land
He was under the impression that
Patric Cloytermon believed that the contraction of the ability to cause the walls and houses was essential to hearing the voice of Maiteayi. Abigail did not. Patrick tossed into overwhelming attachment to what he had begun to call his demon, and then his brother, and then eventually his brother twin, was a cause of a constant rift. His and Abigail's interpretation, their
that beliefs of planetary proceeds of time and joining with the achieve.
Here's a thing.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It's like what controls the spaceship.
Patric's eventual use of Abigail as a translator and his gratuitous finding of another better bucket of the sermon was allowed Brother Twin to translate any further sometimes contradicting symbology displayed by Patrick as he eventually crossed the
like what controls the spaceship.
discovering new texts as he went. Patrick's use of Abigail as a translator did not come without repercussions. Some of his followers split into factions and began to question his shift of divining and his use of new recruits to Keynesiology as interpreters as questionable to the divine principle. The faction that followed Abigail back to Kingston claimed that Patrick was illiterate and needed a conjunction that could happen only through Abigail and Maiteayi to truly interpret the teachings of Maiteayi. They did not discount that the objects Patrick divined were indeed from. There is no single text which claimed that the divine spirit lay after followers of Patrick against the Apparently Abigail's because he was divine Patrick's brother and that this was some administrative principle. It became more apparent that he was against Patrick.
I'll get the signal. You're right.
And most people, not Patrick's themselves, many of whom have followers to ensure that
and then hop out, pull the pants on, put the shirt on, get the boots on, and come around that way, or do you want me to go back? Well, which door do you want me to go?
As Patrick deemed necessary, interfered with the understanding that out of 2, 3, out of 3, 1, and all. Brother Twin's exponential reading of all differed from Abigail's reflexive understanding of conjunction with Matthew's.
Despite the times we live in, nations no longer exist and terror in the East Kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, famine, and pestilence, and fearful events, and great signs from heaven.
Distrust of the appearance of Patrick's brother Twin,
Dr. James
psychic.
Many of the Bible's prophecies were fulfilled
It became more
centuries
apparent
ago.
that the brother
Some
Twin
are being fulfilled now, in our lifetime. Others, like God's wrath pouring down over the earth,
Abigail's
like we hope.
Perfect. Yeah, it's like just totally ended up phase.
Good find.
Writer and sociologist Eric Hoffer suggests a reason for our return to space. He wrote, "I always felt that man is a stranger on this planet, a total stranger. I always played with the fancy, maybe a contagion from outer space is the seed of man. Hence our prior occupation with heaven, with the sky, with the stars, the gods. Somewhere out there in outer space. It is a kind of homing impulse. We are drawn to where
We're motivated.
Patrick's eventual disuse of Abigail as a translator and his gratuitous finding of another better guided discernment was allowed Brother Twin to translate any further and sometimes contradicting symbology displayed by.
Of course, there are some who claim Patric Cloytermon's later revelations, like Pay It Forward, which is meant to ensure visitors' future lives by giving generous visitors to the present, were motivated by greed and not by the prophecies of Maiteayi. But we cannot discount the transcendence achieved through the occupation and communication of the jinn of the possible effects of Lyme's disease. Achievement of Lyme, nor can we forget that Patrick was communicating more and more within the green trailer and was no longer only in the present time. In the psychic green trailer, Patrick was watching himself watch himself. Without a living subject, time cannot exist. How is it possible for a living being that consists entirely in its relationship with the environment to survive in absolute deprivation of life? In what sense does it make to speak of waiting without thought and without world? Patrick's achievement of a constant feedback loop in past, present,
out of 2, out of 2, out of 2, a most favored distribution, pay it forward by which followers could ensure better future lives while paying for it in the present with American currency.
Credited with having invented the electric cell 2,500 years later. Was the secret of electricity revealed to man thousands of years ago? Planet Earth has been visited by travelers from outer space. Did they wander through the tropic light of the universe, searching other life, and find it here?
To every known part of the world. In their exile, they were sustained by the promise, a set by their saints. This is what the prophet says.
I will save my people from the countries of the east and the west. I will bring them back to live in Jerusalem. They will be mine.
But Jerusalem fell into the hands of Muslim powers that Islamized it. For centuries, the land called Palestine was a part of the Ottoman Turkish Empire until the Turks were defeated in World War I. This permitted a trickle of Jews to return to
and then
this is what all of them
your whole world. You are like it's like
It's just like really.
as found in the Old and New Testaments of the Bible. People bound by God see a relationship between horrendous events and the human life. Millions of children see the terrors of the moral decay and natural disasters that so characterize this decade. As conditions popular in the second of Jesus Christ. These hours, the generation
so they now stay right here and
Which means what are these guys?
before Christ returns to this world. The Bible foretells of 7 momentous events that will herald the second coming of Christ. I'm not a theologian, of course, but I can recognize that one of these events is contemporary history. And another event is history in the making. The first event or sign is the greatest opening in human history and the bloodiest. The return to the Holy Land of the Jewish people. The people has fulfilled destiny to unprecedented consumer power. The third, the rise of a dictator whose monstrosity dwarfed even those of Adolf Hitler. The fourth, the worldwide dominance of a new religion, whose god name is Satan, the Antichrist. The fourth one, the unpolished Trinity. The fifth is the building of the third temple of Jerusalem, on a site where one of the holiest shrines of Israel.
Wait, should I be like more?
I don't know.
Megan was like.
That's what I'm trying to. I'm trying to look up.
Like, close your eyes and look into the sky. A little bit off,
Both
but it
of
was
us
good.
did.
Okay.
You
We can
like,
like
you don't know the movements. Let's do it one more time.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Okay.
Yeah, jump back. Here. 6. Shoulders up. Shoulders up and back. And
Abigail Lowe came from a wealthy and educated family that, like other families at that time, believed in equal education for males and females. She had seen Patrick only in passing, but had heard of his reputation around the community as an eccentric storyteller and diviner. When he entered her room on that night, she was initially startled to find him in a state of ecstasy, wearing the sacred garment of Cain's theology, and was eventually won over by completely understanding his urgency and compelled to follow him through the field, into the forest surrounding her family's farm, and into a cave. Once in the cave, Patrick began, without saying a word, to pull at her garments. Startled, Abigail froze when over Patrick's shoulder she caught a flash of whom she later knew as Maiteayi.
Of course, there are some who claim Patric Cloytermon's later revelations, like Pay It Forward, which was meant to ensure lucrative future lives by giving generously to the church of the present.
When Patrick was done applying the garment, Patrick and Abigail were immediately transported to a dimension of future
through the occupation
an approximation of all time,
or the possible
in which
effect
they could exist on the same plane as Maiteayi.
Nor can we forget that Patrick was communicating more and more within the green trailer. It was no longer only in the present time.
But we are not concerned.
In the psychic green trailer, Patrick was watching himself watch himself. Without a living subject, time cannot exist. How is it possible for a living being that consists entirely in its relationship with the environment to survive in absolute deprivation of that environment? And what sense does it make to speak of waiting without time and without world? Patrick's achievement of a constant feedback loop of past, present, and future placed him in time, out of time, and all time. We cannot forget the words of Maiteayi. 1 out of 2, out of 1, 2, out of 2, 3, out of 3, all in 1. You can sound it.
Yeah, kind of. And then, yeah, like put the tape in one of these drawers because then the book is like here.
Like, all right, look at this. What do you want to be here?
No, I think those are good.
Okay. Maybe the Magnum copper thing. Maybe iPhone. Maybe wallet. Okay. Alright, this is the bed. Alright, so underwear.
Yeah.
Okay.
So disrobe.
Get naked. Hurry up. I hope someone heard me yell that. Look how cool that is.
Alright, so should I pull that down, or do you guys want lights off, or how are you feeling right now?
No, I think the light's good. Like it's, I mean, because like I don't know what they're doing
Maybe in my safe covered, or what? How do you?
It's so am I doing the same thing here?
Right, action.
Well, it's like were motivated. I got distracted by that grammatical problem. Of course, there are some who claim Patric Cloytermon's later revelations, like Pay It Forward, which is meant to ensure lucrative future lives by giving generously to the rich in the present, were motivated by greed and not by the prophecies of Maiteayi. But we cannot discount the transcendence achieved through the occupation and communication of the tick of the possible effects of Lyme's disease. Achievement of Lyme, nor can we forget that Patric was communicating more and more within the green trailer and was no longer only in the present time. In the psychic green trailer, Patric was watching himself watch himself. Without a living subject, time cannot exist. How is it possible for a living being that consists entirely in its relationship with the environment to survive in absolute deprivation of matter? In what sense does it make to speak of waiting without time and without world? Patric's achievement of a constant feedback loop of past, present,
Action.
Five, six, seven, and 1.
Wait, and then wasn't it when we
Open. No. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll then come to the side of you guys and like shoulder into you guys, you shake, one and shake and together and into shake.
Wait, should I be like more?
I don't know.
3 together, 4.
I feel like Megan was like.
That's what I'm trying to. I'm trying to look up.
Like close your eyes and look into the sky. A little bit off, but it was good.
Okay.
You done all the movements. Let's do one more time.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Okay.
You're merging.
I'm just like
Joan of Arc, like thrice.
Yeah, Joan of Arc.
Shoulders
6.
up.
Shoulders up. 5, shoulders up and back, and you're like 5,
Like
6, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2. 2 and 3. 1 and
Wait, no.
Almost.
just so totally freestyle.
No, I didn't. I was trying to because we missed. Okay.
Let's do it one more time. It's
Wait,
good
can
to
we
be
each do it at one time with you?
Back in
Individual.
1981.
No, it's not a question at all. It's just a period. Of course, there are some who claim Patric Cloytermon's later revelations, like Pay It Forward, which was meant to ensure lucrative future lives by giving generously to the church in the present. But we cannot discount the transcendence achieved through the occupation and communication of the tick or the possible effects of Lyme's disease. Nor can we forget that Patric was communicating more and more within the green trailer and was no longer only in the present time. In the psychic green trailer, Patric was watching himself watch himself. Without a living subject, time cannot exist. How is it possible for a living being that consists entirely in its relationship with the environment to survive in absolute deprivation of that environment? And what sense does it make to speak of waiting without time and without world? Patric's achievement of a constant feedback loop of past, present, and future placed him in time, out of time, and all time. We cannot forget the words of Maiteayi, out of 1, 2, out of 2, 3, out of 3, all and one. You can edit that.
Yeah.
You can sound edit that.